You know that feeling, right? You've got this beautiful, detailed marketing plan, and it just ends up collecting dust on a shelf. Well, you are definitely not alone. Today we're going to talk about a game changer, the G-STIC framework. It's a really powerful tool developed by Professor Alexander Chernev, and it's all about turning those plans into actual successful market actions. So let's dive right in.
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off by looking at why so many marketing plans fail in the first place. Then we'll introduce the G-STIC action plan as the cure. After that, we'll break down each piece, the goal, the strategy and tactics, and finally, implementation and control. By the end, you'll have a solid framework for success.
Okay, Section 1. Why do so many marketing plans just fizzle out? Honestly, it usually boils down to one simple thing, a lack of clear direction. It's like being a ship adrift without a rudder. You're busy, sure, you're doing stuff, but you have no real destination. So how can you possibly know if you're making progress? You can't. You're just moving. You know, Lewis Carroll nailed this in Alice in Wonderland. That famous line, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. It sounds kind of charming in a story, right? But in business, that's a recipe for disaster. It means wasted time, wasted money, wasted effort. Because if you don't have a clear goal, every single road, every tactic is basically pointless.
And that is exactly where the G-STIC action plan comes into play. Think of it as both your rudder and your map. It's not just another business acronym to memorize, I promise. It's a really logical, structured way to build an action plan that actually gets you from point A to a successful point B.
So the whole framework is built on these 5 key pillars. It's a simple flow. First, you set your goal. That's your destination. Then you figure out your strategy and your tactics. That's your route. Next comes implementation. That's actually getting in the car and driving. And finally, you have controls to make sure you're not getting lost along the way. This whole sequence, it's the absolute backbone of any good marketing plan.
All right, let's dig into the first and, honestly, the most important part of this whole thing, the goal. We're not talking about some fuzzy feel-good aspiration here. This is your North Star. It's the ultimate, measurable benchmark for success that should guide every single decision your team makes.
So what do we mean by goal in this context? It's simply the end result the company's aiming for. I love the analogy of a GPS. Your goal is the address you type in before you start the car. From that moment on, every single turn, every choice you make is all about getting you closer to that specific destination. Now, goals aren't all the same. You've basically got 2 flavors. There are monetary goals, the hard numbers we all track like net income, profit margins, ROI. Then you have strategic goals. These are a little less direct. Things like boosting market share, building brand awareness, or even focusing on social welfare. And the key thing to remember is they're not an either-or. In fact, they work best together. A great strategic goal, like becoming the most recognized brand in your space, should absolutely lead to better monetary results down the line. And a fantastic example of this in action is the triple bottom line concept. You've probably heard of it, right? People, planet, and profits. Companies like Ben & Jerry's really champion this idea. They decided that success wasn't just about the money, it was also about their impact on society and the environment. And let's be clear, in today's world, that's not just some nice ethical stance. It's a massive competitive advantage. It builds incredible customer loyalty and helps you attract the best people. Okay, so how do you make a goal real and not just a vague idea? It has to answer these 3 specific questions. First, what are we trying to achieve? Is it market share? Is it profit? That's your goal focus. Second, how much? A 15% increase? 50,000 new users? That's your quantitative benchmark. And third, when? By the end of Q3, within 12 months? That's your temporal benchmark. If you can't answer all 3 of those, you don't have a goal. You have a wish. Right, so you have your big, shiny North Star goal, but you don't get there in one giant leap. That main goal is supported by a bunch of smaller market objectives. Think of them as the building blocks. You might need to set an objective for your customers, like increasing their purchase frequency, or one for your collaborators, like signing up new distributors. You might even have an objective related to your competitors. Each one of these is a critical piece of the puzzle that helps you reach that ultimate goal.
Okay, so we've set our destination. We know where we're going. Now what? Well, now we need the playbook for how to get there, and that brings us to the next 2 letters in G-STIC, strategy and tactics. These 2 are a pair. They're the heart of your plan. They define the value you're going to create and exactly how you're going to deliver it to the market.
Let's start with strategy. This is your 30,000-foot view. It answers 2 and only 2 super important questions. First, who are we going after? That's your target market.
And second, what value are we bringing to them that no one else can? That's your value proposition. Get your strategy right, and everything else gets a whole lot easier.
So if strategy is the what and who, then tactics are the how. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're talking about the specifics of your market offering, what you might know as the marketing mix. Your product, your service, your brand, your price, your promotions, how you communicate, where you sell. These are all the tactical levers you pull to make your strategy a reality.
All right, we're on the home stretch. We've got our goal, our strategy, and our tactics. The last two pieces, implementation and control, are all about execution. Implementation is about actually doing the thing, and control is about making sure you're doing it right and staying on track. This isn't a one and done. It's a continuous loop that keeps you moving forward.
I love this quote. A goal without a plan is just a wish. It just says it all, doesn't it? You can have the most brilliant strategy on paper, but if you don't have a solid plan for implementation, it's just a wish. This is the part where you actually roll up your sleeves and turn that beautiful document into a real-world action.
And implementation isn't just one big blob of doing stuff. It breaks down into three pretty logical phases. First up is resource development. You've got to get your ducks in a row. Secure the funding, the people, the technology. Next is offering development. This is where you actually build the product, design the service, and create the brand. And finally, you have commercial deployment. That's the big launch, getting your offering out there into the market.
So you've launched, you're out in the wild. Now comes the most important question you can ask yourself day in and day out. Are we on track to meet our goal? And that's where the C for control comes in. It's the system you put in place to answer that question, not just once, but constantly, so you can stay agile and make smart adjustments.
Now, control has two sides to it, like a coin. On one side, you're looking inward. That's performance evaluation. You're tracking your progress against all those benchmarks you set back in the goal phase. Are we hitting our numbers? Where are the gaps? Then, on the other side, you're looking outward. That's environment monitoring. What are our competitors doing? Are there new technologies? What's changing? This two-sided view is what gives you the power to know when to stick to the plan and when to make a change.
So let's pull this all together and talk about putting this framework to work for you. The big idea here is that G-STIC isn't some abstract academic theory. It's an incredibly practical and powerful tool you can use to make sure your marketing efforts are actually focused, that they make sense, and most importantly, that they get results.
And if there's one key thing to take away from all this, it's this. G-STIC is not a rigid, step-by-step formula you have to follow perfectly. It's a blueprint. We walk through it G-STIC, but in the real world, it's messy, it's iterative. You might have a brilliant idea for a tactic and then work backwards to figure out the strategy. The framework gives you the essential pieces, but you have to be flexible in how you put them together.
Ultimately, that's the transformation we're talking about. When you start using this framework, you stop being that ship adrift without a rudder, just hoping you'll end up somewhere good. Instead, you become a business with a crystal clear destination, and just as important, you have the map to actually get there.
So, I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Take a hard look at your current marketing plan. Is it a true action plan, or is it really just a wish? Is it a G-STIC plan designed to get real results, or is it just a document filled with good intentions? Because honestly, figuring out the answer to that question could change everything.